Hello, welcome to Get Sandwich. Today we will talk about the one tip to rule your PowerPoint presentation. When we're presenting in the real world, let's say for example at work or in campuses, we are expected to use PowerPoint slides. I think the idea behind this is sound. Slides allows you to add media, things like images, audio, as well as video, in the way that it hopefully will enrich your presentation much more than just words. However, as we've seen many times, bad PowerPoint presentation makes what is a good presentation turns real bad real quick. Why is this the case? For many of us, rather than actually looking through what is it that we are going to talk about using outline, as what we've done in previous video, we ended up thinking using the slides. So rather than writing it down on a piece of paper, we ended up opening the PowerPoint immediately and we start putting our thoughts and our outlines on the slide. And it turns out that this is definitely a nice way to think. However, it's not a good way to present. A common result from these way of thinking is you'd get quite a number of slides. Many of them are peppered with bullet points because it's the way your brain puts all of the supporting arguments before you make a claim that is your presentation. So it might just look like this. Now, if this is you, then congratulations. Usually at the end of this whole exercise, you would be able to think through and come up with a logical flow on how you structure your presentation. Save that through. That is then the slides that you can distribute after your presentation. The one tip that would make a huge difference between where you are now, having slides that works in terms of the flow, to having a great presentation where the slides support what you say, is to differentiate the slide for distribution and a slide for presentation. What do I mean by this? Let's use an example to explain what I mean. This is a slide about how rivers are formed, and it's an example that I've taken from the internet. There are many bullets on this slide that outlines how rivers are formed. If you present this slide together with you speaking, the audience will end up just reading the slides. So instead of doing that, we looked at all of the bullet points. It seems to be the bullet points are not equal. The first bullet point, for example, goes through the fact that river starts small. The second bullet point talks about the sources where the water comes from to make the river. The third and the fourth bullet point talks about how the formation process works. And the last two bullet points talk about some of the examples of river. I can take the essence of all of these bullet points and put them in one slide outline, something like this. Great, so immediately I've removed a lot of words. Now, the next thing I have to do is simply to add pictures or images where I think it would add to the description of rivers. The first slide, for example, on how rivers are formed, I get an example of a beautiful river that I can show to the audience. And then I simply enlarge the picture so that it covers all of my slide. But I can leave the text there. I don't have to edit it that much. Let's do the same with the second slide. In the second slide, we have how river starts small. So I get a picture of a chicken or a chick. I enlarge the picture of the chick and voila, I have a beautiful slide where the audience can anchor what I'm talking about with the fact that all rivers starts very small. So we do the same thing with all of the other slides. At the end, you'd have a presentation where the slides cannot stand without the presenter, however, adds tremendously to the story of how rivers are formed. So if I am to present this with the slide, for example, it would go like this. Rivers start as very small streams and gradually get bigger as more and more water is added. Heavy rains and spring meltwater add so much water to some rivers that they overflow their banks and flood the surrounding landscape. The water in rivers come from many different sources. Rivers can begin in lakes or as springs that bubble up from the underground. And other rivers start as rain or melting snow and ice high up in the mountains. Most rivers flow quickly in the steeply sloping sections near their source. Fast-moving water washes away gravel, sand, and mud, leaving a rocky bottom. Rivers flowing over gently sloping grounds begin to curve back and forth across the landscape. These are called meandering rivers. Some rivers have lots of small channels that continually split and join. These are called braided rivers. Braided rivers are usually wide but shallow. They form on fairly steep slopes and where the riverbank is easily eroded. Many rivers have an estuary where they enter the ocean. An estuary is a section of river where freshwater and seawater mix together. Tides cause water levels in the estuaries to rise and fall. What do you think of that? Which presentation would you prefer? Having one slide where the presenter reads from that one slide, having no reason to present at all? Or to go through beautiful slides where the images reinforce the presenter's message? Presenting a PowerPoint slide with bullet points, that is the outline of your speech, is like showing how the sausages are made without giving a chance to the audience to taste the sausage in the first place. It's why it's boring and dull. So remember, the tip is to differentiate between slides that you use for distribution and slides that you use for presentation. Distribution slides are commonly the result of your thinking process, where you put through the outlines and the flow of your speech. That is fine. Save it and send it over to people who will not be able to attend your presentation. But after that, you need to go to the next step and change that distribution slide, remove a lot of the words, and add pictures that are engaging to the audience. And present with that.